Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Quest Me, the Star Wars podcast that takes you on a quest through Star Wars legends and new canon. My name is Josh. I am your forever host and friend of the Quest Me podcast, and I am joined today by my good friends Phil and Justin. We are all here today to discuss Rogue One. We just finished reviewing the Andor season 2, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to go back and rewatch Rogue One after everything has been said and done. So, yeah, that's what we're here today doing. Phil, how has your week been?
A little hectic, man. Last week of school for all the kids, so it's been a lot. But hey, here we are. I survived, made it through to Saturday, and here we are sitting on the first part of a 3-day weekend.
Oh yeah, it is Memorial Day, huh?
Yeah,
That's right.
it is.
That's right. Justin, are you doing anything for Memorial Day weekend?
I'm working tomorrow.
Ew.
Hey, time and a half on Monday though.
That's true.
So,
And I'm sure you get to deal with like a lot of fun drunks.
oh, I hope not. Don't fucking jinx me. I want a nice easy day of like little old ladies falling. That's my bread and butter.
Are those are easy days? Just the ones
Oh,
where you
God,
have to go pick up Grandma Karen and
Scoop and score, man. Scoop and score.
Oh my God. That being said, make sure to follow Quest Me on Facebook and X, Twitter. Just search Twist My Arm Podcast or click on the links in the show notes if you're listening on to the podcast. Cool. Memorial Day, Rogue One, Andor season 2. My God. I feel like this movie's a lot different now.
Absolutely.
Just with watching everything else.
I was dreading watching it because I just watched it for May the 4th because it's one of my top 3, but I literally just finished it maybe a half hour ago. And amazing.
It's a lot different now. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
Hello to Ro in the chat. I always want to say Roy. But
wrong sci-fi franchise, man.
Yeah.
Roy's on track.
Whatever. I love that. I also know like 3 other Roys, and so then when it's like it happens, whatever. But thanks for being here, Ro. It's good to see you. Hopefully you enjoyed Andor season 2 as much as we did. It was so good. I actually went back and listened to the original Rogue One review that the Twist My Arm podcast did 9 years ago now. We reviewed the movie a week after it came out, and I was gonna pull some clips, but for whatever reason, the audio on that sounds like we're all huffing whippets, like we're all just there.
I mean, it was 9 years ago,
but I never do that. I don't do that. Like it's so dumb. So it's like
I wasn't even here then.
Yeah, like it was one of Jesse's first ever podcasts, actually, which is pretty funny. He ousted himself as a Trek fan in that podcast, which was fun. And then a couple other friends that have been in and out of the show. But it was, aside from the, I sounded like this the whole time, and it was like slowed down, whatever. Aside from that, it was a really fun review to go back and listen to because that was only the second movie that Disney had released at that time. Rogue One was the second movie. It was episode 7, and then Rogue One, and then the rest is history. So like I was riding pretty high. I really, really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I was really excited to see more Star Wars, and Rogue One was just really, really good. So for Star Wars, I was riding really high around there. And it was fun to hear some of the old like predictions and just like things that we had. What I'll just say right now, one of the funniest things that we talked about, that looking back now makes me laugh really hard, is we discussed, Vader's little attendant, the guy that's like, Director Krennic is here. And you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so
he's one of the staff at Vader's castle.
yeah, so back then we were discussing how that was possibly Snoke.
Oh man.
Oh, that sounds like a Josh theory. That's yours. That's not me. That is you.
No, you weren't even around, Justin. This was
Okay.
like,
This predated you and me both on here, man.
dude, the Rogue One was the 4th ever Twist My Arm episode. And I've done over 200 episodes now. It was a long time ago. But yeah, so it just kind of made me think that I want to kind of go back and listen to a lot of those old reviews and hear some of those old, predictions, because we're always so wrong. At least I am. I'm always so wrong when it comes to that.
Speak for yourself.
I'm about to mute you.
Nope. I called Ray being a Palpatine from the get-go.
Yeah, I know. And that should have never happened.
I hold that over you so much.
That's a discussion for another time.
We legitimately do not have time for that argument again tonight.
Yeah. I will give it to you, though. You did say that. Whatever. Congrats. Blah, blah, blah. On calling the worst story twist of all time. But yeah, so just going back, it was a lot of fun rewatching Rogue One and the old episode and stuff like that. I will put the link to that old episode in our show notes. If you can brave the quality. What I did was sped up because on Spotify you can speed it up. And so instead of listening to it at 1 like normal speed, I sped it up to 1.2, and it was a little normal, a little bit better. So I don't know what happened with that track. It, like I said, it was a long time ago. I was using way different equipment at the time that I should have never been using for a podcast. So, but it'll be there. The link will be there. Go check it out and enjoy it. Justin, what was your going back to Rogue One? How did you feel after you finished it? I know you just finished it not too long ago, but how are you feeling after it?
It's hard to recount my original thoughts on it. But
I'm saying right now, like
right now,
watching it again, like, is it better now? Is it the same? Like, where are you at?
I can't say it's better, and I definitely won't say it's worse. It still sits number 2 for me. It just adds a more depth to it, more sense of emotion, and it just peels back the onion a little bit.
Yeah, Phil, what about you? Are you on that same boat? Is it better for you now? Is it the same as it was when it first came out? Like, where are you at?
I absolutely loved it when it first dropped. I have said consistently since then that it is the second best Star Wars film, second only to Empire. And okay. I mean, I remember when I got home from watching the midnight premiere, and I just posted the opening crawl from the original Star Wars and captioned it "Spoilers for Rogue One."
There were a lot of good jokes coming out after Rogue One, for sure.
It was a good time, man. I rewatched it this week, and just it still held up really, really well, with a couple of minor hiccups with some of the graphics. Tarkin,
dude, that was my first thing I was gonna say. Is
it was gonna come up one way or another. Leia still looks really good. Tarkin less so, and I think a lot of that was the lighting in their respective scenes.
Oh, for sure.
But
I still to this day will say that they should have left Tarkin's first scenes of him just looking out the window and his reflection there. Because the reflection looks so much better.
You could have just had him in voiceover, from shown from behind, and would have been just as good. But I also understand why they were wanting to kind of softball in that tech at the beginning of the movie, so that it wasn't so jarring when you saw Leia at the end.
Right. Well, and look at, it's fun because Tarkin was, I think, one of the first ever characters to be used in that way. I think that was the first time that a movie had used that kind of technology, the using the face, the kind of de-aging sort of thing going on. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So now you fast forward to Andor season 2 and the last the background episode of Luthen.
Yeah.
And that
And you
technology
have
has come so
Skarsgård.
far.
Yeah.
Dude, and Skarsgård looks great. And that's on a Disney Plus series. It's not even on a feature film.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see how far that's come.
It would have hit. It would have been a lot better done if it was all sort of in the shadow. Like
That's the
CGI
thing, and that's
in sunlight looks like shit. If it's a
Yeah.
little dark out, yeah, I believe it.
Right.
it. The lighting can shift everything.
Yeah, no doubt. What on those kind of that little subject, James Earl Jones sounded very funny in this as well. And it's even like in more recent Star Wars where they've used his voice, they're using it as like young James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually voiced Vader in Rogue One, and this is like 30 years later now.
I thought it was just hot buttons. Like they splice the segments of the voice together to make the sentence.
No,
That's what they're doing now. But for Rogue One, that was actually James Earl Jones. He like went in and read his lines and
So they
did the thing.
de-aged his voice.
I mean, did they? Because I don't.
I think they
like
still
it.
just ran through basically the same filter they used for.
Yeah, it's funny now because when with them doing more recent Vader stuff, he sounds much more like your Empire Strikes Back Vader.
Mhm.
Whereas Rogue One, it was again the second movie that Disney did, so they didn't really know how to navigate that. They didn't really have the technology quite yet, and so we just have Old Man Jones playing a younger Vader. But it was still cool. I still love that they got him to do it, and his scenes stole the movie for sure.
And
I
that
think
was something that he basically said, "Hey, Lucasfilm, you can do this digital version of my voice."
Yeah,
and that's what they did. That's what they ended up doing for Obi-Wan.
Yes, that's what I was trying to think of.
I thought they did that first in Rogue One.
No,
man. Rogue One was 10 years ago, dude.
Yeah, he's on his deathbed.
He was not. He died in December.
He was in his prime.
Well, he was in his prime senior stage. I don't know what that means.
Twilight.
Yeah, there we go. God, I had something I was gonna say, and it totally just left my brain. I did want to just go back and just Gareth Edwards directed this movie.
Mhm.
Wonderful director. And then you had Tony Gilroy and Chris Weitz that wrote the movie, and of course Tony Gilroy wrote all of Andor. And so there was an interview that I watched where Tony Gilroy was talking about how people asked him why Vader wasn't in it or why other characters weren't in Andor. And Gilroy had said that Rogue One is the end of Andor.
Yeah.
So that's where Vader appears. He doesn't need to come in any other part of Andor because his scenes are saved. They saved the best for last. And that's kind of how they looked at Andor. Instead of shoehorning in characters, they let them have their spotlight in Rogue One.
Funny you mentioned that. I after watching this and Andor and then this, I thought the first cameo for Vader didn't really make sense. Krennic literally listened to the ISB the entire time. Why
but he still answered to Vader. He still answered to Vader, and
no. There was a threat of Vader and the Emperor. He never once made contact with them throughout the show.
In Andor, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is this is the conclusion. So shit has actually hit the fan, and he really has to go see
That's why he
Vader
went to. That's why he went to Mustafar.
Right. So
now that I'm watching it, it just feels forced.
I think it makes more sense now. I think it felt forced in Rogue One to shove Vader in there. But now that you have Andor and that entire story, even season 2 and Krennic's entire story through that, and how he's fighting with the rebels and trying to keep the Death Star under wraps, and then all that stuff, like he didn't ever have to go answer to Vader. He didn't have to talk to Palpatine before because everything was running smoothly. And then all of a sudden, Luthen and his band of rebels fucks everything up. And, you know, they're chasing after Clea and Coruscant, and there's a hospital getting blown up, and there's all sorts of other things happening. Meanwhile, the Death Star is now out. It's been outed. The rebels know about the Death Star. So because they know about the Death Star, now Vader is like, all right, it's time to chat. I think I don't know. I think the opposite, that it wasn't, that it made more sense now. And that's what I like. That's why I wanted to do this, because there are certain scenes and certain things that happen in Rogue One where it's like, but now that we've watched Andor and seen the backstory of it, it's pretty cool. Justin, you said the last time you watched Rogue One was May the 4th.
May the
Phil,
4th today.
Phil, when was the last time you watched Rogue One besides
prior to this week?
Yeah.
It's been several years.
Yeah.
Like I did not go back and rewatch it when the first season of Andor came out. I specifically just wanted to let Andor be its own story.
Yeah.
And so it's been, I mean, I don't think I've watched it since Disney Plus was a thing.
Oh, wow.
I think the last time I watched it prior to this week was getting a copy of it on DVD from the library.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised, Philip K.
Well, Phil does a lot more than just Star Wars, Justin. You know, he reads books and stuff.
Books. The mysterious text.
Yeah. So
those ancient runes,
yeah. What did you think when it was first released, Phil? Like when you first watched it in theaters, leaving the theaters, what did you think?
I remember being honestly thrilled that it turned out as good as it did, because there were so many hangups in the production. I remember, how many reshoots they were, being announced that they were going through, all of the various different little notes throughout, like, oh, they've rewritten this, they've added so and so to the cast, they've done, there were so many ups and downs during the production of Rogue One that I never expected it to turn out as good as it did. I still went to go see the midnight premiere, because by the time we came around to that, it was like, okay, no, the hype from the critics, everybody, what I'm seeing, the buzz I'm seeing is good. Let's go give it a shot.
Right. It's funny. I'm glad that you mentioned all the reshoots and stuff, because I wanted to go back and watch the original trailer.
Oh, and I did. That was the thing when you posted that in our group chat earlier today. Yeah. I went back and rewatched that trailer. I was like, oh man, I'd forgotten the whole TIE fighter scene at the tower and all these various other things that they had filmed.
I'm actually going to play it right now for people that maybe haven't watched it since, because there's a lot of things in this that it's kind of funny. So
the whole vibe changes.
Yeah, let me make sure that the sound is there, because that could be a problem. Can you guys hear anything?
State your name for the record.
Jyn Erso.
Forgery of imperial documents, possession of stolen property, aggravated assault, resisting arrest.
On your own from the age of 15. Reckless, aggressive, and undisciplined.
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel.
Never said that.
We have a mission for you. A A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know what it is and how to destroy it.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
There.
That shot of credit.
Bald Bob!
What will you do when they catch you? What will you do if they break you? If you continue to fight? What will you become?
Yeah.
There was so much
funny.
emphasis. There was so much emphasis on Jin's criminal background and just like
Yeah.
the implication that she'd been involved in the rebellion, all of these other things, and it's like, nah, maybe she's
None of
just
that
somebody else.
She just got out of jail like 3 days ago.
Yeah,
You
man.
are being rescued.
And then the other trailer has the one scene, like you mentioned, Phil, of the TIE fighter rising in front of her on top of the tower that never happened in the movie. So like going back and watching those two trailers, I feel like the movie was way different than those trailers kind of portrayed it to be.
Here's my question, though. Was that trailer performed or made prior to all the reshoots?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. That answers a lot.
No, that was the thing. There was a lot changed in between the release of that trailer. I want to say that was in May.
Yeah, and then the second one came
around
out
Star Wars
in
Day that we got the initial trailer, and then there was a bunch of reshooting and things happening, edits and various things that tweaked between then and the December release.
Right. And even in the second trailer, they had put in, different scenes that weren't even in the movie. So yeah, man. And Bald Saw is my favorite.
We get a little bit of Bald Saw in the in Jin's flashback, right?
No, he's
When
still
she's
got
little, when he comes
Bald,
together.
man.
I'm pretty sure he's still got hair in there.
Of his suit and his hair throughout Saw's timeline.
He just gradually gets more and more pieces.
Yes.
Speaking of Saw, we know what he's huffing on now.
Yeah, hey, there's the Rido.
Because he takes takes that big old hit of gas and then just goes, "Por it." Yeah, in our
he's
review,
7 minutes 26 seconds. He's bald.
Is he? Okay, I was also clicking.
Yeah, no,
on
in the flashback bit with little Jin in the bunker.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still bald there.
Okay. He just wasn't bald in the scenes that he was actually shown in the trailer.
Well, because they were not wanting to reveal his earlier presence.
I guess
the timeline difference.
Saw was such a huge deal for people because he was in Clone Wars and Rebels was in its prime right now. I think Rebels was like season 2 or 3 when Rogue One came out, because I don't know if you guys remember or caught it, but there's a scene where
General Syndulla gets called.
General Syndulla gets called, and you see the ghost. You can see the ghost on the actual base.
Yep.
So that was such a huge deal for Rebels fans.
Oh yeah, to just get the acknowledgement of characters like Hera in
right. And we were starting
to
live action. We were starting to get that like Marvel Cinematic Universe thing going on, or we were getting movies that were referencing characters or showing characters that we had seen on TV, and all the stories are connected and blah blah blah. And that was kind of our first taste of that. And now we're so spoiled that it's like we're always just expecting it. You know what I mean? We're just waiting for the next cameo to appear.
Where's our next stinger? Where's our next,
right?
Easter eggs.
Which I think that's one thing that makes Andor stand out from everything else, is they didn't have that.
Yeah,
there were rarely any, huge cameos or anything. Like, yeah, we got Luthen's shop that had some really cool like Easter eggs in it. But again, we didn't get a Vader. We didn't get an Emperor Palpatine.
I think
get
that's
any of that
because
stuff.
they introduced a lot of things, like the Death Troopers, the TIE Reaper. Because I was flipping my shit. The original.
Oh man,
I
see the
saw
TIE
that
Reapers
trailer.
on the screen.
Yeah. I was
Oh, yeah.
just like, what the fuck is that? That is the coolest thing.
Right.
The Shore Troopers as well. Those were brand new.
The Death
So, I mean-
Troopers were my favorite new introduction as far as like the enemy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love
They could
those
actually
guys.
hit a target.
I
And
like
hit
that
it
we
well.
got some of the variants on the AT-ATs. We had
Yeah.
the cargo hauling ones.
Was it the beach crawlers?
It just looked like a semi truck to me now after watching this.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another trailer.
I just like the idea that we were getting more practical stuff. We got the U-Wings in live action for the first time in this.
That's true.
Right. 1
I
second.
did enjoy seeing that.
Oh Lord, he's dead.
Yep, he's dead.
No, I like I said, I didn't get prepared as well today, so I just wanted to. One of my favorite collectible things. It's so hard to see because of the thing, but there you go. It's a Death Trooper.
Death Trooper. Yeah.
And it's die cast.
Nice.
Like this is a heavy
actual
action
metal.
figure.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
Take it out of the box.
Take it out of the box? Are you crazy?
Open it. Here's the
Do it.
Are you gonna sell it? No.
Do
Just
it.
open it and play with it.
No, dude.
Just play with it.
No. Actually, it's funny you say that because I was talking to Shay the other day about possibly opening up my. I have little micro machines. I have like this little collection of, and I have the pod racers.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
Sebulba's pod racer, and I'm like, I kind of want to open those, but like
I
they're Target
had,
exclusive, and they have gone up in price since I bought them. So like,
You're not gonna sell them. Shut
you're
up.
right, I'm not. But you never
Play
know, dude.
with
What happens?
it.
What happens if
still
I lose
have-
a leg or something, dude?
I still have the micro machines like Dagobah
That
that has the little platform. No, just like the little platform that has Luke's X-wing that sits down in the swamp and a little button that lifts it up.
like the Mighty Max things
Yeah.
Yeah.
for Star Wars.
And then
little...
then I have the one that is the it's TIE Fighter pilot helmet that opens up, and
I
you
have,
have
C3.
little control rods that you can put a TIE Fighter and an X-wing on and chase them around.
Yeah.
I had the
Those
Boba
things-
Fett helmet that was
Cloud City. Yeah.
that was my
dude.
favorite.
Those were so cool. There's a little shop here in Omaha that actually sells a bunch of those, and they're not too terribly priced. And I've been thinking about getting some of those old heads again because I love those. I still have C3PO that opens up, but I want those. I had Boba Fett back in the day. I had the Vader one. I think that was on Cloud City. It was him and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dude, those are so fun. Anyway, no, Justin, I'm not gonna open my things. It's not gonna. You can never convince me to do it. I still have action figures in their packs, like old Episode 1 action figures. I have like Kiat
Mine up.
in the package still. So
My wife got me drinking and then said, "What are you gonna do with them?" I'm like, "I'm gonna keep them forever until I die. Then just play with them." And then I
Dude.
played with them, and I had a
Dude.
wonderful night.
no way.
That's
I could not. They're a display at this point for me. They're like they decorate my walls, and they see if you had them all in the package still. Look, that wall would be so full. There's so much space there.
I'm out of
What
space
walls?
anyways.
What walls?
I don't have
Um,
any walls.
So yeah. Anyway, good times. I love collecting. It's fun. It's
Nah, to each their own.
yeah.
But,
So where were we at? We're not really in an organized discussion. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We're just kind of chatting about Andor. Oh my God, Phil, how could I forget? I guess we're a half hour into this episode, and we haven't even gone there yet. So
I know.
think
That's
I
all
think it's
right.
about
I was
time.
giving you time.
Let's take a trip.
I'm looking for a drink.
Where are you going, Master?
For a drink?
Do you have spiced tea?
We are at a bar far away, the part of the show where Phil makes us a fantastic drink. So, take it away, Phil.
I think I came up with quite possibly the perfect combination of cocktails for something for Rogue One. Just given our closing scenes with Jin and Cassian, I took a Death in the Afternoon and a Sex on the Beach, and I smashed them together. So
I love that.
yeah. So this week's beverage is a Death on the Beach. This is an ounce and a half of orange juice, an ounce and a half of cranberry juice, an ounce and a half of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of peach syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of absinthe. That's with the Death in the Afternoon part coming in, and a half ounce of blue curacao, shaken and strained over fresh ice, garnished with an orange wheel for the last sunset that Scar, if ever, gets to see. And then I have a little extra treat for the rim of the glass at the Oddities Expo here in Colorado Springs a few weeks ago. I got to come across a spice vendor, Occult Herbs and Tonics, and they have a Pomona spice blend. This stuff is a like a spicy peach kind of salt blend, and it is absolutely delicious. I've been using it for margaritas. But
Spice.
it works really, really well with anything remotely peach flavored. And so I did a little bit of that around the rim of the glass for this.
Nice.
This is sweet. It tastes almost like because of the absinthe in there, it tastes almost like a black jelly bean, but like a really high quality black jelly bean.
Ooh, I'm not a black licorice type of guy.
With some sweet heat from that, the salt and the peach syrup blend, and it is delightful. So yeah,
Right.
we'll have the recipe for you all in the show notes, and again, shout out to the folks at Occult Herbs and Tonics, because local spice blends, I've been doing different seasoned salts and stuff from them, and that rimming salt is it's so fucking good.
Nice.
Just really elevated the whole thing. So yeah,
Nice.
That is Death
black.
on the Beach.
I love that.
It's black jelly bean mixed with a peach jelly bean.
Yeah, but spicy.
I dig it.
Yeah. It's really good. I'm honestly really happy with it. Like I said, we'll have the recipe for y'all in the show notes, and as always, drink responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone that ever, like, we do have people that listen to the show and stuff. If you ever make those drinks, send us a picture. I'd love to see you guys all out there making Phil's drinks and enjoying along with us, because he's so creative. You're so good at that, Phil. And I appreciate that segment. So thank you.
I'm working on an actual like bar sign. I'm gonna play with the laser engraver at work and just actually do like bar far away, but in Ornabesh.
I love that.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Oh, you should just open a bar now. Just open a bar. I will allow you. You can have it. It's yours. You can use a bar far away. And then it can be Star Wars themed, and we can do our podcast in your bar.
Can I brew beer there then?
I've got hops growing in the backyard right now.
Dude. There it is. There's our business. Went from
Brewery,
podcast to
distillery, all in one, to Star Wars theme called Bar Far Away.
Damn. Sounds like a great time to me. So I gotta ask, has Tony Gilroy and company ruined Star Wars?
Yes. Nothing will ever be this good again, and I fucking hate them for it.
Justin, are you on that same page?
I've never
Please,
thought about
please,
it until you
please
asked.
please feel free to use that as a bumper at some point. Just like, has Tony Gilroy been Star Wars? Yes. No, I no.
I've heard a lot of people saying that
Just set a different standard.
so
That
maybe it's less he ruined it and more he's trying to save it. Right? Save the dream?
I mean, I think he has changed people's perceptions of what a Star Wars TV show could be.
I completely agree with that. And on that topic, Ryan Reynolds actually pitched an R-rated Star Wars movie to Disney. So I think we're getting closer to a more gritty version of Star Wars here. Granted, I mean, they didn't accept the pitch or whatever, but like you got people doing that.
I mean,
And Andor and Rogue One have kind of proven you don't need to have those old characters all the time to make a good movie. You just have to have good writing.
exactly.
It is
I've got a Star Wars story that I'm working on, but I'm not telling y'all about it because that's not what we do here.
That's okay. Tell us after the show.
No, that's a hey, save this and actually like pitch it to Lucasfilm at some point down the line kind of thing.
Oh yeah, there you go. Well, shoot. Yeah, I think especially now that the whole story is done, we have basically like a full trilogy of Tony Gilroy's Star Wars. Andor season 1, Andor season 2, Rogue One. And I feel like they did set a new standard for this. There's been a lot of rumblings around that Star Wars is pulling back on content. We're not going to get nearly as much Star Wars over the next few years. They're going to be a lot more selective about what comes around.
Quality over quantity, baby.
Yeah,
I'm okay with
I'm
that.
fine with that. Let them take their time.
Yes. We don't, it's the same with Marvel. We don't need something every month. We don't need to have something just to have something. I would rather wait a year or two and speculate and podcast and do all that stuff and get excited about it instead of like, okay, we got this show's coming out now, and a month after that we got this show. They're kind of just pumping these out. They're, here's a basic ass story. Like I'm hoping that this gets them to kind of rethink how they're doing Star Wars.
See, I would say that in hindsight. Like
Sure.
when initially everything was announced, I'm like, yeah, fucking give me content. And then
Right.
the writing and the screenplays have just been down and down. But like you said, quality, man. All for it.
Yeah. I am really excited. I know it's a couple years away, but I'm so excited for the Ryan Gosling Star Wars.
Starfighter, right?
Starfighter.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a little bit more of a gritty type of Star Wars. And do you find it weird that do you find it a little weird, maybe a little ironic that Ryan Gosling's Starfighter is announced just a couple weeks before we realized that Andor had a baby?
I do not think they're going to be at all related. And honestly, I prefer for them not to be connected.
The Tony Gilroy like dodged that question hard in some interviews where
because he doesn't want it to necessarily become a new like Skywalker
they're going
saga
to though.
thing.
They're going to.
I like it how they do separate stories, not based around the Skywalker, like Phil was going to say. Like they should explore different avenues, like do an underworld and focus on the crime syndicate. No Jedis. They can make a cameo or an appearance, but just focus on a random.
They did do the Acolyte, which is not the Skywalker saga. That ended poorly.
Yeah, it had potential, but
I liked it. It was fun. It was a fun watch, and I enjoyed speculating and reviewing and all that stuff.
Like you do.
Right. But I just didn't. Again, after I read that Darth Plagueis book, I was like, okay, I see now why people are upset. Because it's like, for a lot of other characters that they've pulled out of the EU, they've at least kind of stuck to their origin. They've kind of stuck to what happened in the EU, kind of. Even Thrawn, to an umph degree, they did that with, because Thrawn disappears in the books and comes back from the Outer Rim or whatever, and to in Heir to the Empire. So like, they kind of stuck with that with him as well. It wasn't obviously the same locations or the same exact storyline, but he was still out of the galaxy for a while and came back to an empire in shambles. So like, I can see why the Acolyte was so, I don't know, just looked down upon because of Plagueis, because they did really shoehorn Plagueis into that, and it kind of takes away from some of his original character.
Yeah, I can see that.
Again, I still enjoyed Acolyte, but like, Skeleton Crew is outside of the Skywalker saga,
and it was stellar,
really good. So now we've got, Skeleton Crew and Andor are both semi outside. They're still within the realm, but they're outside of that Skywalker saga circle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And yes, so, Rogue One is adjacent,
right?
By
and
virtue
you
of
have
the
Leia
inclusion of Leia and Vader,
right? What else? What was the other show?
Mandalorian season 1.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
We get
Jill Ahsoka showed up, and then we all lost our shit.
Well, I think that was another product of Disney pivoting too hard because they think they knew what the fans wanted. Which, I think Luke Skywalker coming into Mandalorian season 2 was one of the best things to happen, and some of the greatest Star Wars that we've seen,
and got undone in an episode of Book of Boba Fett.
Because people freaked out.
Which, I mean, like, I enjoyed.
What do you mean Grogu's gone? We have to bring him back. Yeah, dude, it's... Again, back to the original thing, I am really hoping that the success of Andor, showing that with good writing and good character development, you can still stick around Star Wars and that main story, but make something that is meaningful and like has, it's more impactful, you know what I mean, than just pumping out Obi-Wan or whatever. So hopefully Tony Gilroy didn't ruin Star Wars. I mean, he made some great stuff. Do you think he'll ever come back, do more?
No. Honestly, I think now he has. I think he has further established himself as a phenomenal, thriller writer, whether that's a sci-fi one or not.
Sure.
I said it was last week, wasn't it? That I said I'd love to see him take on Bond.
Yeah.
Was that just last week or was that 2 weeks ago?
We've kind of been talking about that for a couple weeks.
I think he'd handle, something like a Bond film very well.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean,
and honestly,
we'll see.
Like I would love for Star Wars, I would love to have him be producing more Star Wars content. Absolutely. But for him, I would love to see him keep doing more original stuff, being outside of that, outside of those expectations.
Right. Does Andor and Rogue One change the way we look at Jedi and the Force, Justin?
I'd say weird question, but no.
Is it though? Because we've always assumed
Jedi.
But and that's what I'm saying is you got Chirrut Imwe, you got Baze, who are both guardians of the Wills and are Force attuned. You have the healer on Yavin. that is Force attuned.
The whole universe is around the Force, though. You can't avoid it.
Right. So, have they finally squashed midichlorians, you think?
No.
They're too small. You can't squish them.
But
It's
I'm
all
saying,
about
like,
that M count.
we've gone from everyone being able to use the Force and someone being able to train to be a Jedi in 6 weeks in The Empire Strikes Back to it takes years and years and years and a set amount of midichlorians to become a Jedi to now we're back to anyone can use the Force and everyone is attuned to it.
Everyone can. I like the idea that everyone could attune to it. Everyone in the main galaxy. I mean, we're not going to get into the Yuzan Vong here.
Not yet. Hopefully they get into us though. I'm sorry, that was bad.
I'm just thinking of Jason on the Embrace of Pain. Anyway,
I'm going to go ahead and take myself out.
All right, Justin. Now that he's gone, now that he's dead again. Oh,
Philip and Justin
Yeah,
show.
I'm back.
Philip and Justin show.
Sorry. I just thought it was kind of an interesting, like.
I think we're getting closer to through Andor and Rogue One. I think we're getting a little bit closer to what George Lucas had maybe originally intended for the Force to be, but had kind of steered away from it in favor of making it more kind of mysterious.
Right.
The
I feel like with
with
midichlorians, he made it more exclusive.
I think he over-explained.
I
agree with Phil.
Yeah.
And I wish he hadn't, but we
Dude.
can't. That was 26 years ago. We can't go back and redo that now.
And it's taken 26 years to undo that. Kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Chirrut and Baze, I forgot how cool those characters are. And just their like
they seem like an old couple.
Kinda. Either that or like old best friends.
What are the two guys from the Muppets in the balcony?
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. But they're so good.
I thought of it honestly, so going back, my wife and I have been playing D&D together in a campaign where my wife's playing a gnome warlock and I am playing the tiefling bodyguard who is assigned to keep the warlock safe. And I realize there's a lot of that the Chirrut and Baze dynamic that gets reflected there too.
That's funny. So, are you the Baze character? You'd be the Baze.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
She's
no,
Chirrut?
I'm the tiefling fighter bodyguard. Just
so she's always like, "Yeah, the Force is with me. The Force protected me," and you're like, "No, I protected you.
I protected you. But when you went off on your own, you got slapped out of your own body."
Yeah, they were funny, and like their end was.
I guess Donnie Yen decided it was Donnie Yen's call that Chirrut was going to be a blind character.
Really?
That was not part of Gareth Edwards' original plan.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was it's always fun to see about like the improv stuff and things like that. Right. Alan Tudyk slapping Cass,
yeah.
K2 slapping Cassian was an improv bit.
Yeah.
Like you can see Diego Luna trying not to covering his mouth and trying not to laugh in the aftermath of that.
Right. Yeah, Alan I was going to say something about K2SO here.
And how he's the best droid to have ever been in the history of droids.
Well, we get a kind of a throwaway line. Yeah. But we get kind of a throwaway line about how he, due to his reprogramming, he says whatever he wants. and now we've like seen his reprogramming and like kind of seen how he came to be, and it makes his death just that much more sad. Oh, funny story about that. When we did our original Rogue One review,
Yeah.
and I talked about I had not seen Firefly yet.
Oh, so you didn't have the
Sudden but
wash reference
inevitable,
there.
right? Sudden but inevitable wasn't even a thing yet. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. I had never heard of Alan Tudyk. This was the first time I'd ever seen him or anything like that. Or maybe first time I ever really like cared to know who he was.
You see, A Knight's Tale for me was
right. And after Rogue One comes out, now I see him in everything. Right. But anyway, so when K2 dies, in the old review, I was like, man, I'm just so sad about it. Like, how could they do that? It's so crazy. And Jesse pipes up and goes, well, it's Alan Tudyk, so he has to die. And it's like, I never put any of that together. Doing the whole series of Firefly, Jesse, in the most throwaway fashion, spoiled all of Firefly for me,
Serenity
and I never
for you.
even knew it. I don't know. Listening back, I chuckled pretty hard. Because like I was like, you sly devil. But yeah, I loved again. K2 was the best character. I still think he's my favorite character in Rogue One. His lines are hilarious.
Did you note something from the show and the movie? How in the movie he says he's reprogrammed and he'll blather about being reprogrammed, and in the show they explain that it was an impulse suppression and that he will blather about being reprogrammed. I thought that was cool.
That was a decent handling of the retcon there.
Right.
Really was.
Exactly. And K2, I mean, oh shoot, what's that? Is that I believe it is. And it's Phil's one chimer for this week.
That's not the point of Where'd you get it?
I found it.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Trust.
Why'd you choose that line, Phil?
Because 9 years ago? Because when I first watched Rogue One and saw that line, that bit stuck with me more than almost any other bit of dialogue from the entire film. And I just loved how much of K2's characterization you got in that one line.
Yeah.
And it's not even just like, you're lying. Just that's vague and unconvincing.
His one-liners are the best in this. His first line in the movie is, "Congratulations, you're being rescued." And yeah, Alan Tudyk's delivery is so good.
It's so good.
And it was so fun to see him come back, and like we didn't have to see him in action the whole time. We got to see him playing dominoes with his buddies and just kind of being a robot, It makes his death in Rogue One that much sadder. I think.
No, definitely.
Yeah, and it's, the way that he went out too, like he went out protecting everyone and making sure that Jyn and Cassian could get the plans. And so he's unsung hero, I think, of Rogue One. Maybe that's just my bias talking, but
I like it how Andor kept the disobeying orders thing and made that joke sort of a play on. Because he always tells him to wait in the ship. And in Andor, I don't think he says it's boring, but in Rogue One,
does.
It's boring.
Well, he does. In Andor, what does he say? He says, "I don't like it here." That's what he says.
That man you don't like is here.
His robot, he's like resting his head on his arm. "I don't like it here." All bored. It's funny that a robot, a droid like that can get bored.
He's one of the most human characters in the whole thing.
Yeah. I think if there were any characters that I feel like we should have get together, it's K2 and L4
Oh yeah,
from Solo.
from Solo.
Dude. That would be a power couple right there.
What about Chopper?
Well, Chopper doesn't really speak. Chopper could hang out with B2 Emo, I guess. But I feel like
it's just going to be swearing the whole time, and B is going to be like cowering, like, "Oh, why are you so mean?"
You're gonna show up and B2's on his charger, just like, he killed 50 people.
He's a war criminal.
And Chopper's like, what?
Oh, we got a fun little Rebels, and a second fun little Rebels shout out in in the beach scene with Pow.
That's right.
When they're fighting against some of the Imperial walkers, we get Pow yelling "Carabast!"
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just like, hey,
that's right.
Yeah.
That whole scene at the end, that the last battle scene on Scarif was so fun. And to be honest, when they had all the pilots check in and they were using old scenes from A New Hope, I wasn't a big fan.
Oh, I loved that.
At
I
first,
loved that they were.
At first, I
loved that
wasn't.
They pulled the archival audio for some of that.
They pulled the video. It was a whole video from it. It wasn't. It was just like,
yeah,
they pretty much just spliced it in there. Which is, at this point, I appreciate it a little bit more. But I remember when I first watched it, I was like, Did they do that?
That was the thing. I thought that was one of the most brilliant bits of the whole thing. That they kill off the guy who's Red 5 so that his position in Red Squadron is open for Luke. It's just like,
Yep. That was one of my favorite tie-ins for sure with The New Hope, was the Red 5 thing.
We got I'm still kind of sad that we don't get the bits with Jin and Cassian and K2 actually out on the beach too. In the finished film.
Oh, you're talking from the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Tujik said that he was ridiculously proud of how well he was able to run on his stilts, on sand.
Right. And they just cut it.
Yeah.
They're like, that's cool and all, but we're not going to use that. So I'm glad you worked.
Oh, by the way, Alan, you want to come
practice
voice a chicken for us?
I will. So back to the original Rogue One review, Jesse had brought up when Director Krennic goes to confront Urso, and they're standing on the platform in the rain and doing their whole discussion. Jesse was like, in our old review, said, "Do they have conference rooms in Star Wars? Is there such thing as an Imperial conference room?" And Andor showed us that there are definitely conference rooms, because we saw multiple scenes throughout Andor of all of
conference rooms,
of that white conference room. Yeah. Just one of those funny little quips from the old review, and how our views have changed a little bit, since then. We had never seen an Imperial conference room, and now we're so used to it that it's kind of like it was always there, but just 10 years ago we had never seen that, which is cool. I mean, we did see it in A New Hope, kind of, on the Death Star for that first 10 or whatever, the 10-second scene. But having actual meetings and diving into other things was pretty foreign.
Speaking of conference rooms, did you notice in the movie Krennic, when talking with Tarkin, said something about recent breaches?
Yes.
And the connection to Andor after watching it.
Yeah.
Related to Dedra. I love that.
No, that was really good too.
That's a good circle around.
Yep. And again, that's showing why Krennic had to go talk to Vader.
Yeah.
Because of those recent breaches. Speaking of that, I think there's another. This one is Justin's one-chimer.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
Dude, that is just some good old-fashioned Vader humor.
It really is.
Like, I read a lot of the Vader comics. Vader Down and a couple others are full with Vader humor. And it's just dark and twisted and always plays into him using a force power and making a pun about it.
Yes!
I love it. It is freaking so good.
I feel like the comic puns and jokes are a lot better than that one.
Yes, but
this was so much more Anakin than
unplanned.
anything. Like
That's
you
the
could totally
thing.
you could
This
see
is-
Hayden coming out of this.
Yes. No, and that's the thing. This is such an Anakin Skywalker joke, not a Vader joke.
Right. I just feel like
It's
Justin
a
was
great
saying,
line.
I feel like he was a lot darker in comics when he went with his puns, but like this one, you're like, shut up, Annie. One of those scenes though that this was we go to Mustafar and like when watching it in the theater, the first time I saw it was in 3D, and again that review, I forgot that I had seen this in 3D, and going into Mustafar, I was like, oh my god, that's right, this was so cool. And seeing Vader for the first time on the big screen, like since however long it's been, and him doing his choke move, just so awesome, dude. So good. A great one-chimer too. I'm glad you picked that one. There was a lot of good lines from this. Again, just like Andor, just so much good writing.
Oh yeah.
And I loved it. Let's see. Where else we got? Were there any continuity problems that you guys noticed?
One stood out to me when
Okay.
Bail, Organa, and Mon were having a conversation. It was towards the end, and they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna do about this? Can you get your Jedi friend?" And I haven't talked to him since the Clone Wars.
Would he have admitted to have sought out his aid?
I don't think. Ooh, you're right.
I don't think he would have. I think that
means his Leia got kidnapped and everything, and they kept hush hush.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they ever would have mentioned that.
Yeah. I don't think that Bail and Mon were ever that close.
Not that
Not
buddy.
till,
Not to talk about that.
right, and not till
Because,
Andor would.
Well, and how much of that would have been admitting Bail's knowledge of who Leia's father is?
A lot.
Yeah.
Makes you start asking questions.
Right. My biggest question was, why was Leia with Admiral Raddus on Scarif?
So, I brought this up with my wife when we were watching it together, and they said over the intercom or PA system that all ships are to report to Scarif for this battle. And she probably was chilling on the Yavin.
That was the thing. Tantive 4 was tucked away on board Raddus's ship.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Now,
I guess I must have missed that.
There's still some potential hangups with the order in which things happen there, but
go on.
Just the whole bit of Bail talking about how he has someone he can trust for this mission. Do you trust her? You trust him? I trust her with my life.
Yeah.
He's already talking about enlisting Leia's help for this.
And
then her ship is, on board docked on board Raddus's ship when they
she was on her way to go get Obi-Wan. That was the whole mission there. They just ended up getting, I think they just ended up
from Alderaan.
Yeah.
Well, they got the plans
They
accidentally.
intercepted the plans, and oh no.
Huh. Jesse says Annie should always shut up. Would he like that Rogue One remembered that Vader is actually a young baby and has always been a one?
When I was a kid, I always read Tantive 4 as Tantiviv.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
I did.
Good luck learning about Roman numerals when you're
It was hard.
6.
But it makes more sense, I guess, now talking it out, her being there. She was going to get Obi-Wan anyway, and then the rebels accidentally basically gave her the plans, and she's like, shit. So
yeah.
Okay.
I guess I've got these now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good to see you, Jesse. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, man.
We have been talking about our old review this whole episode, and man, it was a good time. Good time. You ousted yourself that was the first time you ousted as a Trek fan on Twist My Arm. So it was a memorable episode.
I hope you were here for the conference rooms.
I'm sure you can go back and listen.
That was so cool, though. That was really funny.
Let's see. I don't have a lot more. Obviously, I mean, this movie's been out for a long time, and
almost 10 years.
And we've watched it multiple times. Everyone else has watched it multiple times, I'm sure. I just really wanted to kind of talk about how this movie has changed since Andor came out. And I don't think it's changed much as far as like change, but like just my view of it is definitely different. And one of them one of those views, I caught some really fun lines in my one-chimer. And let me know if you guys hear it.
Everything I did for the rebellion. And every time I walked away from something I wanted to forget, I told myself it was for a cause that I believed in. A cause that was worth it.
Worth it.
Because it was worth it.
Worth it. That's a really nice bit of continuity on the part of Tony Gilroy, pulling that, make it worth it.
Dude. And like when I rewatched Rogue One the other day and heard that, I was like, oh, my heartstrings. Holy cow. Because he's connecting an entire, rebellion with just that one line. Make it worth it. And I don't know, I loved that so much. And every time I did something I wanted to forget, blah blah blah, like he did a lot of stuff. Andor did a lot of shady things throughout his life in the rebellion.
Just after Windsheimer, he says we've all done terrible things for this rebellion.
Yeah. Oh, I love that line so much too.
No, and then after seeing Andor season 1 and 2, it brings a whole new depth to it. You're like, yes, you have.
Yeah.
Done some
and at that point, the most terrible thing we've seen him do is killing Tivik on the Ring of Kafrene at the beginning of the movie, which is admittedly pretty bad.
Well, and now you're after watching season 2, and they keep getting those calls from him, and he says the only person I want to talk to is Andor because I trust him the most. And then he goes there just to kill him. It's much more cold-blooded now because like that guy was begging for Andor, and Andor's like, all right, I'll just end you. You're good. Jesse says he hopes Star Wars keeps Gilroy in the fold, but dude's going to be expensive now. We did kind of talk about that a little earlier. We kind of came to the conclusion that Gilroy probably won't come back for Star Wars. We'll see though. I think his story that he wanted to tell is wrapped up in Rogue One.
Yeah. No, I think he's hit the end of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him get brought back in for something, even if it's just like a bit for an anthology. Let him, do something. Let him direct an animated bit for a episode of
cool.
Visions or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Let's get a K2 Vision. Let's get a K2 focused Visions episode.
I'm still hoping we get like a Star Wars What If series.
Oh
and
man,
we get some of that going.
We already had a Star Wars What If. It was the old EU.
Yeah, that's true. Be right back. Building a circle of candles to summon Gilroy to Star Trek.
No, okay, Jesse, that's who they needed for the Section 31 story.
Dude,
I
still haven't watched that because I've heard so many bad things.
That's what needed to happen. They needed Gilroy. They needed somebody with that sense of how to actually like write a sci-fi thriller.
Right. Dang,
man,
that'd be cool. A Gilroy Star Trek would be pretty cool, honestly. I'd be down with that. What else you guys got? I mean, we've touched on pretty much everything in the movie, so go on.
Yeah,
Justin, what you got?
These are just my like little connections between the show and the movie. Like,
Bring it. Yeah, let's hear it.
Krennic was on top of the satellite dish or whatnot, and he's just looking at Jin and just says, "Who are you?"
Yes. Yeah.
I almost picked that for my one chimer because
I thought about it too.
Yep.
But then she actually gets the answer instead of like having a fist fight.
Instead of getting shot in the head.
Yeah. Fucking Cyril.
Oh.
Dude, I watched the interview with Cyril and Dedra, and it was like those two, like their chemistry even off screen is hilarious. Like those two
I
are
believe it.
Funny.
Especially just because Denise Goff the fact that she can just frown like that.
Yeah.
The way that she just does this.
The scene where Cyril goes in fucking bed was
of just him like going off when his mom's there.
Yes.
And he just goes and pouts in his bedroom for a little bit.
That whole thing was all just him improving that. He's like, what would I do when I was a kid if my mom was doing this? And he's like, I would have just went and laid on my bed. So he did it, and they kept it.
He just went and flopped down on the bed.
Yeah. I think I love that. Yeah. Jesse, we are going to talk about that when we get to our segments, because that's one of my segments. And
can I do one bit about Krennic real quick first?
Of course. Yeah. No,
he wasn't supposed to have the cape on the whole time.
Really?
Ben Mendelsohn just liked the cape.
Really?
And just like it was not supposed to be just like constantly part of his outfit. But that was like one of those improv things. And Ben Mendelsohn is just like, no, I like this cape. I'm keeping it.
If I was in his position though, and I got a character that like got to wear a cape, I'd be like, no, fuck you, I'm wearing this.
That shot that we get of him, that shot that we got of him, and that we went back and saw in the trailer, just the reveal shot of Krennic in the trailer, was just like, oh, the full white,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember thinking he was going to be a Grand Admiral when
we
first saw that trailer, because where else had we seen those white uniforms? We'd only seen them with Thrawn.
I think that was one of those things with Rogue One where everyone thought he was going to be a Grand Admiral.
Yeah.
And then it was director, and we're like, what the fuck is director? And then you get the ISB, and then you have this whole
and when we see how much of the Death Star project was covered up as this energy project, then it's like, okay, now I understand how the rebels didn't like learn more details about it until they did.
Right. Speaking of like directors and Grand Admirals and how big the Empire is, in our first review, we actually discussed the novel a little bit, the Rogue One novel, and how they couldn't get Galen Erso's communication logs in the novel because he had to cut through so much red tape and go through so many different levels of security that he wasn't able to get it. And if you think about it, looking at Andor in a whole, they kind of show that. They show how much you have to go through just to get one little thing. I mean, look at, Cyril is in his first job in the Empire is this tiny little desk in a massive room with thousands of people, going through files and stuff. And so I don't know. I like the Andor kind of even related some things to the novel, just expanding on how big that empire really is and showing like Dedra, it took her, she had to sneak through things to get where she wanted with access and stuff. And cut through the red tape herself. Anyway, just a fun little connection to the Andor and Rogue One. Let's see, what does he say here, guys? Jesse says you got to hear the Werner Herzog interview on Conan's podcast. He mentions watching Here Come Honey Boo Boo, and the title has never been funnier when Herzog says it. Noted. So before we get into the Starlight Killer scene, was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Rebellion built on hope.
That's the other line.
Yep.
That is the other
we get that again too, and both versions of it.
I'd say it goes from the hotel guy to Andor
to Cassian,
then to Jin, and now to Mon Mothma. It's pretty. Did you have any other connections, Justin?
This one just came to mind. Cassian in Rogue One said, "You're in shock and awe, and look at here. You're in shock and looking for some place to put it. I've seen it before." Gorman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
No, lots of very clever call forwards. Call forwards.
Precursors, I guess.
Yeah. No, just Gilroy was paying very close attention to the lines that from Rogue One that he referenced in Andor. And that's just responsible writing when you're working on a prequel.
There was
a bad feeling about this. Shut up.
There was a line. Oh, it was the rebellions are built on hope. Did we? I don't think we talked about Gilroy in another interview. Talked about how his son actually is the one that convinced him to explain the origin of that, and that he, I guess, when Tony was writing Andor season 2, his son brought up, how are you going to explain the rebellions are built on hope line? And Tony was like, I wasn't going to. And so I guess his son bringing that up was what got him to actually write that into Andor, which is kind of fun.
Another tie-in. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
Oh yeah, that's true. Which, I mean, kind of not really, because he was looking for his sister for a long time, and then he got into the fight. He wasn't 6 at the beginning of Andor,
but he would have definitely felt, looking back, it's like, no, this has been my whole life as far back as I can remember.
And Marva was definitely fighting the Empire too.
Oh yeah,
so that makes sense. Jesse says, I think Rogue One also lends weight to the end of The Last Jedi, where the little kid moves the broom with the Force, makes it clear that regular people need to care and that anyone can be a hero. That makes sense. We kind of talked about that too, about how we've gone from Luke Skywalker being able to train and be a Jedi within a month to you have to have a certain amount of midi-chlorians, and now we're back to anyone can be Force attuned and use the Force. So we're going back and forth, but I think we're finally at the point where Broom Kid is acceptable.
Yeah.
So, question for the both of you.
Go on.
When Cassian and Jin are hugging each other and before Scarab blows up. Did you think that was a love scene?
No,
No,
not at all.
I did.
no.
Originally, I did.
I think it was more. I originally when it first came out, it did kind of seem like there was a thing between them, but I think by the end of it, it was more.
I think it was them doing it was the end of Pacific Rim.
I never watched Pacific.
When Raleigh and Mako come back up after like saving the world, you know, they haven't had a romantic relationship throughout the entire film, and there's no point in trying to just kind of shoehorn a kiss scene in there, and so they don't. And I love Guillermo del Toro for that.
I think it was I think it was more that they just they knew that they got
what they could, and that was that.
Right. They knew that they completed the mission and it was the end for them, and they were just going to. I mean, Justin, if we were sitting on the beach and the place just got blasted by the Death Star, I'd give you a hug.
I'd give you a hug too.
Aww.
I guess it's the acceptance of the inevitable.
Yeah. No, it's very much an acceptance thing.
Yeah.
Not.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think that was the intention. Was any romantic? I don't think there was any intention for fucking Rey and Kylo Ren to be romantic until the fans begged for it. Ugh. Again, a conversation for another time. We're gonna have to do a rewatch of The Rise of Skywalker just so I can finally watch it again.
How many years has it been, Josh?
I haven't watched it all the way through since it came out.
Damn.
I've tried multiple times, but as soon as I get to they fly now, I go, nah. I'm done.
Oh man, Jesse, I don't know if I can make that happen.
Yeah, he's been trying to do that for a while.
That is like 13 hours of teen angst that Josh is not ready to re-experience right now.
Bajillion is a wonderful show.
I actually went back through it a couple years ago.
Is it a completed show?
Oh yeah, no,
yeah. How many seasons?
There's a watch order and everything.
Interesting. Let's discuss about that later. Okay. Anything else? We have our last two little segments to do.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I think that we pretty well covered everything I had.
All right, let's do it. It's the Starlight Killer Scene, the part of the show where we talk about our favorite still shot from each episode and or movie that we are watching. Obviously, this week we're watching Rogue One. When we first reviewed Rogue One, I didn't have the technology to do one-chimers and shots of the show or Starlight Killer scenes. So this is actually really fun to go back and be able to pick these shots and talk about it. So let's start with Phil. His comes in at the very end of the movie. Let's do it. I mean, do you really even need to say anything?
I just, again, the reaction in the theater.
Oh my God, I know.
When just based on, episode 4, based on the original Star Wars, what's coming. But this is Vader about to go off in a way that we have never seen him do in live action. This is Vader off of Tarkin's leash, as it were. This is him.
Vader unleashed.
This is him against a bunch of poor fucking mooks who have no chance. and just are about to get absolutely slaughtered. And it's it is the closest thing to a proper horror moment that we get in Star Wars.
Yeah. Most of those people have never even seen Darth Vader or heard of Darth Vader,
or if they've heard of him, they've
heard about the myth.
They dismiss this man as myth,
right?
And suddenly, this 2 meter tall, black armored guy is standing there,
dude,
and he is deflecting everything you throw at him.
Terrifying.
He starts throwing your coworkers around the building.
Yeah, listening back on the old review, when we watched this, we saw it at the midnight release, whatever, in 3D, and it was, I remember back now, this was before Avengers Endgame, like way before. People were cheering. This was one of the first times that I had experienced people like cheering in the theater. And it was the second Vader ignites his lightsaber, and they're just like, ah!
I'd been in one of those moments for the cheering in the theater for Star Wars. When
was it Force Awakens? Because there was a little cheering in Force Awakens.
No, it was the beginning, the moment the opening crawl started, in the theater in
Phantom Menace.
No.
Yeah.
No. Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
So big Vader moments all around.
When I was younger, though, I didn't get to see those movies when they first came out. I always had to wait like a few weeks, and so when I went, there was never that many people there, and so I didn't get to.
And Revenge of the Sith was the first one I saw at the premiere.
Oh, okay.
But that was
long time ago in a galaxy
far, far away.
Far away.
And over
excellent shot, though. One of us was going to pick it. So if it wasn't you, Phil, it was going to be Justin.
I was all about that. Then you popped up in the chat. I'm like, you bastard.
First come, first serve. You know how it goes.
Gotta get up pretty early in the morning to beat me, man.
Justin,
like 2 a.m. But
you did sound a little early. Justin, your Starlight Killer scene comes at the very beginning of the movie, at the 3-minute and 35-second mark. Go ahead and tell us why you picked this one.
In the beginning, it's the Death Troopers and Krennic walking through like the field with his transport ship in the background. I just remember flipping my shit at the theater because I got so much new things in this one shot.
One scene, yeah.
They're already lined up like they're a firing squad. So I'm thinking this guy's gonna be dead right here, right now, and it's gonna be fucking epic.
And it's such a great parallel to the scene where Galen actually dies. It foreshadows that very well.
Yeah, it does. Ready? Aim! He's such a dick.
I absolutely adore Ben Mendelsohn in this, though. He's so good.
He's so good. Really I love his and for a man that very clearly has a speech impediment, he's such a good actor. Like, you know what I mean, right? Like, you don't see very many people that are such good actors or even able to get that chance.
I mean,
because
I don't know that he has a speech impediment. I think he's just Australian.
I feel like he has a bit of a lisp. Maybe I'm just racist. I don't know. God.
But look at that cape is flowing in the wind, man.
It took me a minute to find the best shot of that cape, by the way.
Yeah.
I was trying to find like a really good. It was flapping pretty hard, but it is sick. I love it.
Maybe that's the reason why that he filmed that scene. He's like, "No, I'm keeping the cape."
Right, this was the first scene they did, and he's like, "Nope,
this is it.
Me.
This is it. Yeah. I am here for the cape."
Yeah, no doubt. Now I want to go back Because if Ben Mendelsohn doesn't really have some sort of speech impediment, I'm gonna feel like a dick. Jesse says people cheered for Snakes on a Plane. Really?
I mean, I would if it was a good movie. Not a great movie, but a fun one.
Oh yeah,
that's another one. I'll admit.
Snakes.
I'll admit I never watched that movie either.
It's worth it. You're really
giving,
is.
Like, sudden but inevitable so much content to do.
I know, right? This is horrible. It's just...
Yeah. Well, maybe someday. That's Ricky. We got to get Ricky back on the saddle.
Yeah, we do.
Excellent pick though, Justin. I feel like if you didn't pick it, someone else would have picked that scene. I picked my scene because there's a connection to the old review, and I also just love this shot. It comes in at the 2-hour mark, and it is the scene of the Death Star laser going directly through Krennic. Like that's there's no mistake there. And this is funny because in the original review, we had kind of made a joke about Tarkin was like, put your sights on Scarif, on the base at Scarif, and then he's like, enhance, 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 and it just shows Krennic's face on the tower, and he's like, you may fire when ready. Just to think that Tarkin got his last laugh by blasting Krennic with the actual Death Star laser.
Just the fuck awesome. That guy in particular moment there.
Yeah.
And like, I know they do it because they're trying to wipe out the dish without, obliterating the archives themselves.
Sure. And that makes way more sense. But I like to think that it was him being petty.
When I first saw it, I was trying to decide. It's like, okay, now were they aiming just for the dish? Or are they still calibrating, are they still tweaking the aiming process here?
Right.
Are we still seeing some subtle imperfections within even the firing focus of this weapon? But to be fair, we don't see precision firing from a Death Star like that until Return of the Jedi, when they start using it to pick off capital ships.
Yep. And they must have they must have figured out how to actually do that, because I feel like this was just like, we're here to blow up your planet and that's all we care about. Whereas with the second Death Star, Palpatine was like, we have to be able to protect ourselves with more than just these turbo lasers,
and made an actual force field.
Right.
I love the explanation of Tarkin being petty.
Oh, he's such a and
I like to think that.
The novel they did, that is Galen and his whole backstory, is actually really, really good too.
What was that? What was that novel?
Hang on.
While you're looking that up,
it was
the Death Star...
Catalyst.
Oh, okay. A Rogue One story, right?
It's the Rogue One novel.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to check that out. It's all about Galen.
Yeah. I mean, it explains that he and Lyra had known Krennic for years.
Right. They were like good friends.
Yeah. Like, we get that flashback scene with little Jin, when like Krennic is at their house. But you get much more of that kind of friendship and things going into Rogue One, and it explains so much more about like how Galen, about the kyber crystal harvesting, about why Galen had why they had the kyber crystal that they gave, that Lyra gave to Jin. All of it, and it's been almost a decade since that came out though, and like I haven't read it since then, so I want to go back and reread that one, because that was a fun one.
Yeah, it's funny because now that Andor season 2 has ended, Rogue One has become one of the top movies on Disney Plus. And I feel like
No shit.
I feel like some of those books are gonna get that same treatment. A lot of
Yeah.
people will start reading those books. One last thing I wanted to bring up about the Death Star is just another discussion from the original review was how cool it was that they used kyber crystals and that the Death Star was basically just a giant lightsaber that you the Death Star, the way that we explained it was it's just a huge rail gun that sends giant lightsaber beams out to planets. And that's crazy because we didn't know how the Death Star ran before Rogue One. And then all of a sudden we're getting all these it's a kyber crystal. Like, dude, of course that's no wonder Alderaan is blowing up when you put it at reactor 6 or whatever. Like, that is a massive explosion.
Single reactor only.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they did a wonderful job with Andor, with Rogue One, doing some backstory on things that we didn't necessarily need backstory on, but now that we've seen it, I appreciate the shit out of it.
Oh yeah.
Excellent picks, gentlemen, for our Sarlacc killer scene. Let's move on to the final segment. The Tusken Raider is a part of the show where we rate what we're watching. So this week, I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to rate it once as a standalone for Rogue One, and then once as the complete Andor anthology series. So, Justin, let's start with you. What would you rate Rogue One?
The movie
just on its own.
Standalone, I would do 9. Solid 9. Maybe 9.5.
Okay.
And now that we have, I love how you're calling it the Andor trilogy. Now that I've seen the beginning to the trilogy, like a 10.
You're giving the whole series a 10?
Yeah. Like
Right.
The fact that you could watch season 1, 2 of Andor, Rogue One, and episode 4, New Hope, all in a row, that's just super cool to me, and it really flows and makes sense. The movie Rogue One is brilliantly written, and like we've talked about it the whole entire show. Like I really don't think you could get much better. It is my second favorite Star Wars movie for a reason.
There you go. I love that. That all makes sense. Phil, what about you? Are you on that same page, or
like I'm close?
Talking sucked.
I'm close. I would put Rogue One as it is on its own. It's probably an 8.5. Taking all of that into consideration after Andor seasons 1 and 2, 9.5. I think it definitely elevates it to have the context that we have now provided to us by Andor. I still think it's the second best Star Wars movie.
You're both on that train, huh? All right.
Yeah. My opinion there has not changed since 2016. And it's still phenomenal, and it still is just this emotionally devastating, doomed quest. And that's something that my wife and I were talking about, how much we love knowing that these people are doomed, not necessarily to failure, but doomed.
Right.
And that this is a suicide mission. No matter how successful it may or may not be, it's still a suicide mission.
Yeah.
And that's just a great story right there.
Yeah. I'm actually going to agree with you on both of those ratings, Phil. 8.5 for Rogue One, 9.5 as a series. I really love that you don't have to watch Andor to love Rogue One, and you don't have to watch Rogue One to love Andor. By themselves, they are wonderful properties, but together, they are mighty. And I really appreciate everything that they did for Andor, and all the like meticulous planning and time that they took on this, because you can tell that they cared. You can tell that everyone that worked on this project from the top down, they actually cared. Even Kathleen Kennedy, they all gave a shit about this, and they wanted to make it the best product they could. They weren't just trying to pump something out. And I think that's proven by the fact that they A, went 2 seasons with it, and B, it took what, 2-3 years for the second season to come out.
With everything else, the writer's strike and everything else that happened in the middle of those 2 seasons,
like 4 years.
Yeah,
it was a while.
Right.
But even still, even without the strike
Nailed
or
it, though.
anything else, it would have still been a few extra years. So, yeah, I very satisfied with how this whole story has wrapped up, and extremely curious to see where Star Wars goes in the future.
Likewise.
So cool.
More
Anything
standalone
else?
stuff.
What, Justin?
I said more standalone stuff.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start seeing a lot more of that for sure.
Just make shows in the universe, and I'm happy.
Right? Like, play around with the trapping, with the framework of Star Wars. Something that could be, you know, ambiguous in when it takes place. You know, give us something set on the world that we've never heard of.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I still would love to see a 500-year time jump from Mandalorian to when Grogu is actually an adult. You're getting rid of every single remnant of the Skywalker trilogy, or the Skywalker saga, and everything that has to do with the Old Republic and Empire. And you're moving the story super far with a character that everybody loves and that is still connected to everything else. I would love to see that story, and I'm pounding the table for that, and I've been pounding the table for that for a while, hoping that they basically connect everything that has to do with Star Wars with that species. There's always one around at all times. You know, at least one, maybe two. But that's just me. I make it dark and gritty too. You know, you can jump 500 years in the future and have a Mandalorian Jedi Grogu.
That just sounds badass.
Right? Come on. Hit me up, Disney. Let's talk. That's going to do it for us, though. This has been a great time. I loved going back and watching Rogue One. I loved reviewing Andor with you guys. This has been a great time for Quest Me, and we're going to keep this party going. I do have another podcast that I do called The Very Best Pokecast, and we took a little break from that to do Andor, because it's hard to do 2 podcasts a week every single week. So my plan now is that we're going to do Quest Me every other week, and in between those weeks, you can come hang out with me and Shay and Roy and talk about some Pokemon with us. So next week, I'll be doing the Pokecast. The week after that, we'll come back and do some more Quest Me. I think we're gonna. What do we discuss? We wanted to do the Mortis trilogy, or are we doing the World Between Worlds?
We do either.
I'll make a poll.
Yeah.
And whatever we'll do that. Put it up there for a week, and then that following week we'll discuss whatever people vote on. So, that being said, we are going to continue going live on Saturdays at same time for now, I believe. If that changes, you will all know. Phil the Pirate has a lot of work this summer on the weekends. So, that being said, we will see you guys in a couple weeks to talk about some more Star Wars. Dude, it's been so much fun. I can't stop. You know, coming back into the universe has been rejuvenating for me, and I'm excited.
He's just been huffing the Rhino again. Don't worry.
To be completely If you like, make sure to follow us. If you're listening to the podcast, all of our links are in the show notes. But those of you that are live right now, just go search for Twist My Arm Podcast and you'll find all of our content. Thanks to Jesse and Ro and Murray and everyone else that was in the chat today for hanging out. It was great. Great time. For Quest Me, I have been your host.
I'm Phil.
And Justin.
And of course, my name is Josh. We're going to talk at you in a couple weeks. May the Force be with you. We'll be right back.